Good afternoon. Welcome back, everyone, to the afternoon part of today's event, Crafting Commons, Material Making, and Meditate. Now, the third part of this afternoon is more of a workshop, a series of workshops, and I'm not going to introduce it too much more. I'm just going to pass us over to the front part of ForSpace, where if everyone there wants to see what's happening, can move up to that area. And, oh, just one second. Yeah, and those of you joining us on Zoom, of course, if you have any comments or questions, pop those into the chat. We'll do our best to work those in. And those of you here in the space, if we need to, we'll run microphones over to you. Okay, enough for me. It's my pleasure to pass the microphone over to fashion designer, researcher, community organizer, Nadia Bunyan. Nadia, over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. So what we've created here, or recreated here, is a playdate. Growing A.R.C. does these activities generally in the different spaces that we create, inhabit, whether it's in a garden or in a community space. The whole idea is to get people to just engage, touch, create that embodied knowledge by actively working with the materials. And so here we have laid out kind of 3 different stations to take you through some ideas and work with flax. It's kind of starting from something that's harvested to transforming that and getting the fiber, which you could then work with to spin and create linen. And then moving more over here with wool, where you'll get the chance to, that's Van working on a drum carder right there, to see a demonstration on some spinning, also working with the drop-spindle. So you'll see like 2 ways that you can work and spin the wool, whether it's by hand on a wheel or with a drop-spindle. And over on the other side, we have a solar dyeing installation. This is by Jen, who is around somewhere, and you'll get to see a little bit of that as well. The whole idea is really just for you guys to get your hands into some of the materials. If you want to touch, you want to feel, ask, go ahead. People are here to show you what's going to happen. The work really travels through a little bit of each stage of what it is to transform fiber, and then if you were to weave or create something, how you would then dye it. Each person can kind of give you a little bit more context to the work that they do. Their work here at Concordia, from Van, who is an INDI student, working on her master's, mapping wool over the Atlantic? No. Yeah, Maritimes. Thank you. And Jen, who has a studio and an organization called Stain, working on different aspects of getting sustainable materials in order to work with dyes. So I will let each person take it off. I also forgot to introduce Tara, who is a member of Growing A.R.C., who's going to go through the demonstration for the flax in terms of how we break it, the steps we get to, how do you prepare the flax so that you can break it to then get the fiber. Yeah.
You want me to do a demo?
Yeah, do a demo.
All right, do you want to talk?
I'll talk.
Pre-recorded?
I can talk. You're good? We'll start over here.
If anyone wants to actually do this after, I'm happy to pass the reins over. So what we're going to be doing here is breaking my handle down.
It's okay.
What we're going to be doing here is separating the fiber from the retted flax. Thank you. So I'm going to do a demo. It's going to get a little loud, and then we're going to open this up so if anyone wants to do it afterwards. Basically, what you're doing is holding the plant at one end, and we're going to flip it to be able to do both sides. And I'm only going to do a little partial. And this machine, how old is this machine, Nadia? Do we know?
This is a very old machine that was found in the barn of a farm somewhere in the region. The thing about flax, lots of farms that exist in Quebec, this was a staple. Because when you had farms, a lot of it was smaller farms, there were smaller family farms, so you grew the materials that you needed for your clothing as well as what you were going to eat and what you were going to take to market on a smaller context. So this was something that you would find, a lot of families forget that they have this. It was really by asking questions and traveling into different spaces. I think we found this in Ripon and Saint-André-d'Avelin, like one of these smaller towns, which is how we discovered this flax. I have like few of these because I love them. It's also how we discovered another tool that we have over there called a hackle. These are very old and have been around for a long time.
Okay, so I'm gonna, so you can hear the sound maybe, and this is perfect technology, and then so basically what I'm doing is just breaking off and separating the fibers, which eventually you'll see falling to the ground quite easily because this has been retted.
So I'll explain what retting is.
Thank you, Nadia.
So when you harvest flax, it's really simple. It takes about 100 days for this to get to the point where you can harvest it. And it's a beautiful, tall, looks like a tall grass, but it's thicker. And you just pull it up. And this is why you'll notice on some of these that you have the roots. The reason we pull it up is because you want to get as much of the fiber as you can. If you cut it, you're going to lose some of the fiber. The fiber runs from the bottom and goes all the way up, not all the way to the top. So really, you want to get the root as much as possible. Once we harvest it, you need to go through this process of retting, which is rot. Because as Tara explained, the fiber is actually on the outside, and it's held to the shaft by pectin. It's a glue. Pectin acts like a glue. And you need to have these, the bacteria eat away at the glue. So retting is a form of rot. You can do that on what we call dew retting, which is like on a grass or an open area, and really let that process happen day after day. Could take anywhere from 2 weeks to 3 months, depending on the weather. If you have a lot more rain, well then the fiber is going to ret faster. If you don't, it's going to take a little bit longer, and you have to flip it in between so that you ret it on both sides. You can also do water retting. Water retting basically means you put it in a body of water. This could also be on the side of a river or something like that. It's much faster. That will usually take about a week. The difference is, remember I told you we have bacteria eating away at the pectin? All those bacteria have to go somewhere. If you do it in water, you're releasing all the bacteria all at once. So especially if you're doing it at a waterway, that could be harmful for anything that's living in that waterway. If you're doing it in a basin of water, well then you have to get rid of that water. Where are you putting that water with all of those bacteria in it? So this is one of the reasons why you might do dew retting, because even though it takes more time, it's because it's a slower release of that bacteria. So everything that's falling is what we call the boon or the chaff. This can actually be used as fertilizer. Nothing here is waste. Everything can be reused. And each step we do, you're just getting a little bit more of it off, and you're breaking it, and you can see the fiber beginning to kind of stick out. You see it's beginning to get hairy. After this step, we would go through what's called using a scratching knife.
Also an ancient.
That's an ancient tool.
Ancient tool.
We don't have an actual scratching knife. It's usually a wood, and there would be a piece of wood that you would hold, and you would kind of scrape it along that. Sometimes there's a little foot holder that you can put your foot in. We don't have that. So really, all Tara's trying to do right now is getting off the smaller pieces that couldn't come off with the flax break. It takes time. It's all, we're talking about slow processes. This is one of these things that takes time with each step.
And eventually you're going to get shorter bits like this that could reuse, could save, or could also be used as fertilizer, depending on where you're at with your journey. But the goal is to eventually have it look something like this.
So to get to there, we would then put it through this tool here called a hackle.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
The reason you want to get more of the shaft or the boon off is because those pieces will get caught in the hackle, and then you're going to lose fiber, because even the long, what we call line flax, will get caught in here, and you're trying to clear away as much as possible of the boon or the shaft, everything that's on the outside, before you put it through here. Yes, you can do. So this one's one that we had done before, and Sarah's just going to show you what happens when you put it through the hackle.
So ideally, this is secured to a table. So you can see why there's like holes here to hold it down, but I'm not going to do it too rough, so you won't really need it. But essentially, you're just lightly throwing it on there and then passing it through, and then you can recoup some of those fibers and put them back to save them. But you can see how, as I do it, all the fibers align and they become much smoother and silkier.
And then from here, we would attach this to what is called a distaff for a spinning wheel that we would use for flax. If not, you can also do it by hand. And you have examples here of linen, because once you spin it and it becomes yarn, we technically stop calling it flax, we start calling it linen. It's only in English that we kind of go flax and linen. In French, c'est juste le lac. But just so you see, this is something that we spun maybe 2-3 years ago. It's also been washed, which is why it looks lighter. These are some samples from people who come to our different playdate activities, and we put together all the yarn that people had spun to create this one big yarn. And this one is an example of flax mixed, linen, and wool mixed together, blended, that Van actually worked on with some folks at one of our playdates and created this one. And this is an example of a machine spun linen. And you can see the difference. One's a little bit rougher, not as smooth. This is also done by people who didn't necessarily know how to do all of, who are spinning for the first time. And I have seen people who've been doing this for years, like really achieve some beautiful, beautiful flax linen. The other difference is a lot of our linen is a little bit thicker and rougher because it all depends on when you harvest your flax. That will affect the smoothness or the thinness or how supple, the fiber is. We'll let Van discuss what she is doing, but we'll also point out here that this is flax or linen that we wove, that we spun, that we then began to create this is a hand loom. And what we did in the summer was each place we went to when we were having an event, a play date, folks would come and they would add to our weave. And the bits and pieces you see in between are just our markers for each space that we were at. So it continues, it's a collaborative project, it keeps growing, and each time we go somewhere, we bring it along. So feel free to add, weft to our little Van.
All right, yeah, I can take it from here. I'm Van, or Vanessa Randall, and today I don't want to take too much time, so I'll just go over briefly like what's going on here for those of you who are new to the world of spinning. So when you get wool off the sheep, it's full of lanolin, it's greasy, it comes in like many different forms. This is actually like from the neck of the sheep, so it's really curly and short. And you're welcome to touch. Like, I won't pass it around right now. We have a lot of people. So the point of spinning is, well, to make fabric that we can wear. But there's also felting, which is another method which you don't need to spin, but it still helps to go through the carding process, which I will show in the demonstration. We've got here some hand cards. So these look like they're like big brushes or dog brushes. And we also have the drum carder, which is a more mechanized way to card. You can get like a little bit more done in a shorter amount of time. And also the drop spindle. So after it goes through the carding, you can get what's called a rolag. It's just like a long, like sausage-shaped form of fibers that are straightened out that you can kind of pull like from the middle, so which is called drafting. So I'll explain that in the workshop or the play date. And also I have some samples here that I did in the process of my research, just to give an idea of like what the wool looks like in its raw form. You're welcome to look through this. There's also some information about spinning and the carding process. We've got, like Nadia showed, machine spun yarn here. And this is actually wool and flax from Quebec and Nova Scotia. We've got wool from Manitoba that's naturally dyed. And then I have some of my own hand spun that I brought today to show. So yeah, and also I've printed off some information about like the properties of wool, how it's like a magical natural material that's renewable. It's like odor resistant, flame resistant, and also most conducive to felting because of the scales on the wool fiber itself. I also have a research creation project that I've been working on for my research into the wool industry in Quebec, in Maine, where I'm originally from. And so here's a sample from that. And if you have any questions like about my research, feel free to ask me. I'll just be here doing the demonstration on the spinning wheel, I don't think I mentioned, but this is a Lendrum spinning wheel. It's made in Canada. And yeah, it's really great for spinning flax and also wool. So I can give a demonstration on that. And next to this one is a Ashford like traditional wheel, which is going to be for show today. It was just to show that this is kind of the more modern version of a spinning wheel, and this is the more traditional one. And then the last thing here is a wool hackle. So another way to process wool is called the worsted method. And this is a process where you comb the wool. It's usually used like with the long wools. But so it's here just to show this is kind of a hack using combs that a friend of mine made in Maine. So I brought that today for show. So it's kind of a show and tell, but yeah, feel free to ask questions. And we'll be doing interactive spinning with the drop spindle. And I can demonstrate that for you for sure. So yeah, that's it for now.
Thank you so much. I think we can now move on to solar dyeing, I believe. So if we want to head over there, thank you so much once again.
So this is just presenting the workshop, not doing the workshop, right?
Just discussing what we're looking at and what we can expect for the workshop.
Okay. I just don't know if people want to come.
People can come on in over here.
Hi. So here is pretty straightforward. This is the easiest way to dye, I think. Okay. So this workshop, I'm going to show you how to create your own colors with everything sustainable and plants that were grown here in Quebec, like on the south shore of Montreal. So basically, what you can expect, I have 12 or 13 jars. So some of you will leave with a jar and a little bit of wool, and you'll learn how to create the colors. So so right now on the table, I have the same beautiful show of different colors that you can create, like we've seen with the artist on the other side of the venue. I have a lot of cards that I made myself with different plants that are harvested in Montreal. So a part of the workshop is actually talking about sustainable and ethical foraging. So how do you forage? When do you forage? What do you forage? And then we go on to, because not everyone has a friend who grow plants for them. So where you go in Montreal, what can you expect to find? What color you can make with it? And yes, what to put in your jar and how to take care of it. So that's straightforward. Here I have just 3 different colors of marigold, right? So you can get different flowers and different marigolds. So I have flowers from woad, I have cosmos, I have that chamomile we're talking about here. So different things like that. So you'll have a choice of some plants to put in your jar. And I also have onion peel, which gives a very, very nice orangey brown. Yes. So yeah, so that's going to be the presentation, like foraging and creating your own colors. Once you've spun it and yeah.
Once you have quite a few people here, what you can do is kind of separate into different sections, and maybe some folks can start on the wool, some folks can work on the flax, and some folks can do the solar dyeing and then switch. That's really how a play date goes. It's not about following one particular system. It's your space to experiment and play and kind of do things at your own pace. So feel free to wander through. At each station, there will be somebody to help you with the materials and for any questions that you may have. So go ahead, enjoy.
All right, thank you so much to everyone who joined us online. We are moving into the in-person portion of this workshop. Thank you so much once again to everyone who joined us today online. Thanks to those of you in person. We're going to go ahead, close up that live stream part now, but the play date will continue. So thank you so much. We hope to see you again, and that has been Crafting Commons. Have a good one.